I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. And this is Currents. After holding out, New York is set to legalize no-fault divorce.
Combat Camelot and Katrina. We'll hear about the colorful life of one archbishop.
He talked himself through the barricade, the police barricade, drove 24 miles across the bridge to minister to the evacuees.
And faith and family are on the program at a summit in Queens.
We're also looking at what is happening to us locally, the educational training that is necessary for us to be the leaders and the improvers of our communities.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Big changes will likely come to New York this week. Governor Patterson is expected to sign no-fault divorce into law. New York is the only state that does not allow no-fault divorce.
We wanted to find out more about it, exactly what it is, and what to make of this proposed change. So earlier on in the day, I spoke with Maggie Gallagher, one of the co-founders of the National Organization for Marriage. Well, Maggie Gallagher, thank you so much for joining us here on Currents today. We really appreciate your time.
A pleasure to be here.
The State Assembly gave final legislative approval last week to no-fault divorce in the state of New York. It's the only state in the union that does not currently have no-fault divorce on the books. But some people are saying, and coming out being very critical of this move, saying just because New York is the only state that doesn't have it doesn't mean it's a good idea to have it. What is your stance on this bill?
Well, I think it's a very sad day for New York, and I'm still hopeful. I know that Governor Patterson has said he would sign the bill, but he hasn't signed it yet. He just vetoed a big 2-foot stack of bills, and I'd like to see him veto this bill as well. Certainly there is no great outcry. We have an economic collapse and a budget crisis, and they haven't been able to get a budget for New York. Why in the middle of this our legislature took time out to pass a bill that will weaken marriage, that will increase fatherlessness, that will disadvantage homemaking women in particular. It's not even a no-fault bill. That's a total misnomer. This is a unilateral divorce bill. Spouses can get a no-fault divorce in New York but they have to agree. They have to go to their spouse if they want to get out, and they have to negotiate the details, and then they can get a no-fault divorce. This is a bill that empowers the spouse who wants to abandon their marriage and their family for any reason or for no reason at all. And I'm deeply concerned and also puzzled by what kind of social or moral logic is behind this bill, which I don't think that the majority of New Yorkers really are clamoring that their elected representatives pass.
Right now, currently under New York law, both spouses have to say we want this divorce. They have to go through a certain waiting period. I believe they have to be separated for about a year or so. Under current law, the new law, if Governor Patterson signs it, would make it where just one spouse would have to go and say, well, for at least the past 6 months, our relationship has been beyond repair, so to speak. In
the judgment of only one spouse, and that's the key. What this does is it allows one person to unilaterally end the marriage. It's, I just actually spoke to Marcia Pappas, who's the head of the National Organization for Women in New York and has taken a powerful stand against this bill. She says the main number one reason women call her office is because their spouse is pushing them through divorce. They don't have the money to hire the same kind of high-powered lawyer, and the court systems are treating them very unfairly. Right now, 95% of divorces in New York State don't go to court. The spouses negotiate the end. And that has something to do with the way the law is set up. And instead now, I think the reason the family bar is pushing so hard for this is that it's going to cause more litigation, more business for lawyers, and I think the people who are going to be hurt are New York's families. And in the end, New York taxpayers, we know that increasing the divorce rate, we know no-fault unilateral divorce increases the divorce rate. We know that increases in the divorce rate not only cause human suffering for children and for men and for women, but they actually increase taxpayer costs. So in this budget crisis, it's particularly mystifying that our elected representatives chose to take time out to take a blow to weaken marriage in the state of New York.
There was an op-ed piece last week, actually no, I apologize, this week in the Buffalo News from Buffalo, New York.
I saw that.
And it said one of the reasons that they were saying that this should be signed into law by Governor Patterson was saying that it would bring New York State up to the standards of all other states and allowing couples to end their marriages in less traumatic and more dignified fashion. What would you say to that reason?
Well, there's absolutely no evidence for that. I mean, this is the same mistruths, untruths that were said around the time the no-fault revolution swept the country. They have proven to be demonstrably untrue. There is no evidence that you reduce acrimony by giving one spouse all the power in divorce. And in fact, I think there's a good argument that New York's system encourages cooperation where a divorce is going to happen anyway, because it gives one, instead of allowing one spouse to just blindside the other, you have to go and you have to negotiate with them. So that same editorial which I read, just mystified that it describes that it will give couples the power to end their marriage without acrimony. But that's not what it does. Couples have that power right now. It gives one spouse. You know, what we're doing now, and Dennis Proust of the Catholic Conference said it best. He said, you know, we give more consumer protections to a cell phone contract than to marriage in the state of New York under this law. So rather than, the reality is that New York State has a lower divorce rate than New Jersey or Connecticut or any of its neighbors, and I do think that the law was protective. I did a research project with Professor Doug Allen, who does a lot of quantitative work on the effects of no-fault divorce law, and we looked at every study on the effect of divorce law on the divorce rate. And it's become pretty clear that adopting unilateral divorce does increase the number of couples who split up, maybe by as much as 10%. So we're going to see more suffering, we're going to see more damage, and we're going to see more fundamental unfairness. We're going to see more litigation. The only people who are going to be happy about this are the lawyers in the state of New York.
All right. Well, Maggie Gallagher with the National Organization for Marriage, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, the New York State Catholic Conference came out against the bill as well, saying society has come to view marriage as disposable and temporary.
Stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we return, we'll have the day's headlines, including changes are coming to how the church handles sex abuse claims. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in a bit, a celebration of African American heritage and culture in Queens.
But first, let's check the day's headlines. Cooling centers opened today in public buildings across New York City on what was expected to be the hottest day of a dangerously hot week. New Yorkers trying to beat the heat gathered in the centers across the city today as a blistering heat wave brought triple-digit temperatures to the area. Temps reached in the low 100s in Baltimore, Washington, and Philadelphia as well. Figure in the humidity, and some places felt like 105 degrees. Wednesday is not expected to be much better for the Big Apple, with temps close to 100 yet again. Well, we've posted some more information on how you can find a cooling center in your area over on our website. Just go to currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave. Well, the Vatican today announced Pope Benedict's plans for his upcoming trip to the UK. We get details now from Rome Reports.
The Vatican has announced the Pope's visit to the UK from September 16th through the 19th. The Pope was officially invited by Queen Elizabeth II and the Catholic Bishops' Conference of England, Wales, and Scotland. This will be the first official state visit by a pontiff to the UK. In other words, it will be the first time a pope addresses the entire population at the request of Queen Elizabeth II. The first papal visit was made by John Paul II in 1982. He came as a leader of the Catholic Church. Pope Benedict XVI's visit is different because as an official state visit, he will take part in ecumenical and interreligious meetings. And as a guest of the Queen, the Pope, the visiting head of state, will address the nation as a whole. During the Pope's visit, he will meet with Queen Elizabeth II in the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh, and will celebrate an open-air Mass in Bella Houston Park in Glasgow, where Pope John Paul II celebrated Mass in 1982. He will meet with the Archbishop of Canterbury, the main leader of the Anglican Church, at Westminster Abbey, and will celebrate Mass at Westminster Cathedral. The Pope will spend the last day of his trip in Birmingham, where he will beatify the English Catholic Cardinal John Henry Newman at a park Newman liked to visit.
Meantime, the British government's representative for the papal trip urged anti-Catholic protesters to show restraint during the pontiff's visit. Chris Patton called for tolerance from those who want the church to be more tolerant. Pope Benedict will also meet with British leaders who are either non-believers or come from different faiths. Reports say he hopes to meet with clergy sex abuse victims during his visit as well. And the BBC plans to air a 90-minute drama based on what might happen if the Pope were to go on trial for the sex abuse scandal. The Vatican is expected to announce new rules for the handling of sex abuse cases. The National Catholic Reporter says the new regulations will increase the statute of limitations for sexual abuse cases and define viewing child pornography as a grave offense worthy of discipline by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. The report says the new rules are mostly a consolidation of existing practice rather than a dramatic new approach to how abuse cases should be handled.
A new abortion law went into effect Monday in Spain. The country's Catholic bishops criticized the new statute as incompatible with the upright moral conscience. The new law allows girls and women over the age of 16 to have an abortion within the first 14 weeks of pregnancy without telling their parents. It also legalizes abortion up to the 22nd week when health risks are involved. The bishops say the new law leaves the unborn practically without any protection whatsoever. The bishops also say it establishes an ambiguous concept of health and imposes obligatory abortion ideology into the education system. And finally, there are more than 6,900 languages in the world, and at least part of the Bible will be translated into all of them within the next 15 years. The world's largest Bible translation organization, Wycliffe Bible Translators, says thanks to new technology and translation techniques, the 2,200 languages that do not have a Bible translation will have at least a portion of one by 2025. Reports say the group needs to raise $1 billion to complete those translations.
A lot of languages and a lot of money.
That's right.
Stay tuned. There's more Currents coming up. Just ahead, this archbishop wore combat boots. And at 97, he's released his memoir.
He actually was in Rome at the North American College of the Vatican when Mussolini was coming into power. He was studying there to be a priest.
Welcome back. Well, it isn't every day that a 97-year-old archbishop releases his memoirs, so the publication of this autobiography really is something extraordinary. The archbishop is Philip Hannon from New Orleans, and he's lived really one remarkable life.
He sure has, from being a chaplain in World War II to delivering the eulogy at President Kennedy's funeral to surviving Hurricane Katrina. It is all there in his new book, The Archbishop Wore Combat Boots, published by our Sunday Visitor. Recently, I had the chance to talk about that and more with one of his co-authors, Nancy Collins. Nancy, thank you so much for being with us here on Currents today. How is it that you went about writing this book in the first place, The Archbishop Wore Combat Boots?
Well, Archbishop Hannon is my second cousin. He's my dad's best friend when they were growing up in D.C. And about 3 years ago, when he's 97 now, so he was in about 94, he called me one day and he said, "Nancy, I'm writing my memoirs." And I said, "Father Phil, not a minute too soon." And he said, "I want to show you the Kennedy chapters." And he had been working on it himself, but what he ended up with, Francesca, he had a lot of facts on a page, but of course he's not a writer, really. So he sent me the Kennedy material, and the background to that is that after World War II, Father Phil had been a chaplain in the famous 82nd Airborne, parachuted into the Battle of the Bulge and so forth. Post-war, he came into Washington. He befriended John Kennedy.
Right.
And, you know, they were very similar. They're both sons of Irish immigrants. They were war heroes. And they're only 4 years apart. Father Phil's 4 years older. And Kennedy met him, and through the course of their friendship, he became Kennedy's secret advisor on church doctrine from about the time he became senator all the way through the White House.
Yeah, and Jack Kennedy, obviously the first Catholic president of the United States. And there's a little excerpt right here. Jack's desire for secrecy surfaced during one of our early phone conversations. The moment he hinted about a gentleman's agreement, I ran with it. I want to assure you, I said, that I do not wish to be known as your consultant. Our conversation should be kept secret by you and your staff. The book is very conversational, but it's interesting to know that they really kept things on the down low, but that they were really working together behind the scenes to think about these things.
And you know, with Father Phil, as he said, it was strictly business. It was about church doctrine, but Father Phil was very involved. Father Phil is what the family calls him.
Right.
Let me explain that.
Archbishop Hannon. We understand there's a difference.
The Archbishop, then the bishop was very involved doing the campaign, because we forget how tough it was to get a Catholic elected in those days. And as the Archbishop, then Bishop, says about Kennedy, he said, you know, Kennedy was a cultural Catholic more than, and probably put politics before his religion, but Father Phil could deal with that. You know, that was fine, because he knew he'd had faith. It's just that he was a very pragmatic Catholic.
Sure.
And I think what Kennedy saw in Phil was a pragmatic point of view.
We also learn a lot about Archbishop Hannon's service in New Orleans. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, in 1965, he was asked to come down to New Orleans and be the Archbishop of New Orleans. And I think maybe he was bishop then. Maybe, I can't remember. I wrote it. But anyway, he came down. They asked him to come and run the church in New Orleans. And it was actually a great post for him, because my family had always been very, and his family had been, his father was very, very pro-civil rights from the get-go, in a time when it wasn't popular. And so the Archbishop had a great point of view about wanting to do that when he got to the South. And so New Orleans and the Archbishop were a perfect match. First of all, he's a brilliant man. He's got a great sense of humor. He loves life, you know, and he fit right into that. He wasn't, you know, a stick in the mud and he fit right into that New Orleans culture.
And he's seen Hurricane Katrina and now the oil spill, and he just turned 97 in May. What are his thoughts about these terrible experiences that have happened in that area?
When Katrina happened, he was a mere 92, and he had at that time bought a Catholic television station called Focus Worldwide. And he was so worried about the looting that he took a golf club, he went down to the television studios, he locked himself in, barricaded himself in for 3 days without electricity, and lived on peanut butter crackers and water just to make sure nobody got in there. And once he got out of there, did he go home? No, he talked himself through the barricade, the police barricade, drove 24 miles across the bridge to minister to the evacuees.
Wow. You wrote this book along with another co-writer.
Right.
What are the things that you learned in writing this book with the Archbishop?
Well, for me, this was a sentimental journey because it was also about my family as well. And what did I learn about it? Well, first of all, he just has that extraordinary willpower. You cannot overestimate that. And his ability to be so comfortable with a President Kennedy or with an Irish maid. I mean, he doesn't see that change. He gets so much done in a day. Even at 97, he still has plans. His health is actually pretty good. You know, he had a stroke about last October. His speech is just coming back. But otherwise, he's walking 2 miles a day.
What can readers expect to sort of get out of it? What kind of a person might enjoy reading this? Somebody who lived through that period of the World War II, or perhaps just any everyday Catholic or just citizen?
Well, I think certainly a Catholic would love it, because this is the kind of priest we kind of grew up with. You know, first of all, he had extraordinary, anybody who likes World War II, you will love this, because he actually was in Rome at the North American College of the Vatican when Mussolini was coming into power. He was studying there to be a priest. But anybody who loves any political junkie is going to love this, because there's 2 great chapters on the Kennedys. And it starts out when, I forgot to say, the Father Phil also gave, that the bishop then gave the eulogy at Jack Kennedy's funeral, and Jackie that was Jackie's request.
Right, I read about that she specifically wanted him to do it, and then she went on to ask that he be a part of the interment ceremony when she moved the bodies of the 2 babies over to Arlington
from
to
Hyannis,
be buried. Right, from the Kennedy compound in Massachusetts over to Arlington. So that's just really showing what a personal connection they had, and some of the letters that are included in the book also show what a real tie there was from the Kennedy family.
I think the letters are one of the key parts of the book, because there are 2 letters that she wrote to him right after the assassination, within a year, And they're so moving and they're so personal. And what they really, and the reason the Archbishop decided to include them after much thought is because they really show how much she loved him. And he always believed that was a real emotional a real love affair. There was a real emotional commitment, and he wanted to prove that. And I think these letters are so moving and so personal that anybody would want to read them.
Well, the Archbishop wore combat boots.
Right.
Nancy Collins, thank you so much for joining us here on Currents today. It is available in hardcover at your local bookstore or Amazon.com. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Really quite an encyclopedia of knowledge in there just from his memoir.
What a remarkable story and a remarkable life. I mean, you talk about World War II, you talk about the Kennedys, you know, from being there during the time right after the assassination, from being a confidant of John Kennedy, you know, to being right there with the family after the assassination, to you know, providing the eulogy there at the funeral, then to be Archbishop of New Orleans, and then to go through Katrina, and now through the oil spill as well. So many huge news stories of the past century have been things that he has been a part of. Just an amazing life.
A witness to history.
Yeah, definitely. A window into it right there. Stay tuned, there's much more Currents coming up. When we return, a global summit visits Queens, and we'll take you there. Well, finally tonight, we take you to a unique celebration of culture hosted recently at St. John's University.
We do. It is the Sankofa Family Summit, an annual event that brings together families of African ancestry for workshops, liturgy, and, well, just plain fun.
All praises be to the King of Kings. I'm here for a Catholic retreat, so the name of it is the Sankofa Retreat, so I can learn more about my heritage.
We are participating in a workshop with children, teenagers, and young adults from different areas from the United States. They've come here for a weekend, and we're teaching them different things. Particularly me, I'm teaching dance.
Today is the Sankofa Youth Summit. It is actually our second day of full conference activities for the Ambassadors of the Word Bowman Francis Project. What we do on an annual basis is to bring young people together in the interest of developing their leadership skills and basically uplifting them spiritually and enriching them culturally. Within our community, and many of us today are representing really the community of African ancestry, Asian ancestry, and Hispanic and Latino. We're facing a number of different health issues. We're facing a number of different ecological and environmental concerns. We're also looking at what is happening to us locally as a community, how our relationships at home foster the leadership and the educational training that is necessary for us to be the leaders and the improvers of our communities.
The groups are split up into age-appropriate groups.
You will create a creative presentation of what you have learned. You gotta come with something new about what you have learned. Let's put ourselves to work now and let's go.
We just picked a hobby that we like. I picked dance. I'm going to be nervous during the presentations because a lot of people are going to be watching.
Some of them never met each other before this weekend. They were just placed in the same cluster, and I think it's so good because it lets them bond a little bit. It breaks the ice, because you know sometimes people can be shy, but when you're dancing together, it's like, yeah, let's get into it, you know.
The best part of being here in this workshop this weekend is just getting to know different people and just coming together.
It went so well. They remembered all the steps. They were happy. They were smiling. I had so much fun.
Now that's awesome. I just want to know, where are the little boys at? Where are the guys? The guys don't want to get down?
Apparently not. They're maybe a little bit shyer about dancing in front of people or something. I don't know why she said they were nervous, though, to get up in front of people, because they did great.
Yeah, no, they were great.
Dancing a whole lot better than I could do. A whole lot better than I did at Irish step dancing.
Yeah, we're not going to revisit that
we
one.
Won't. Yeah, let's not talk about that.
But the whole idea of getting in touch with your roots and feeling more connected to your ancestry and your faith and everything, I think it's something that no matter what you are, whether you're Irish, whether you're Haitian, whether you're Italian, whether you're African, or whatever, it can only bring you closer to knowing yourself that much better and feeling that much more comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah. So maybe next time she won't be so nervous dancing in front of people, you know?
Right.
Sounds good.
Well, that is it for tonight. Coming up tomorrow, it is Giglio time. Yet again, we'll give you a preview of what will be taking place in the coming days over in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I'll be there.
And in the meantime, though, I remember that they're trying to get me to go under and help carry the thing, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can lift a few tons myself. Anyway, in the meantime, remember you can always catch us online. We're over at currentsny.net on the World Wide Web. Check us out on Facebook as well. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.